More than 500 years ago, on a quiet island in the Philippines, a battle took place that would become one of the most legendary moments in Asian history. It was April 27th, 1521, on the shores of Mactan Island. On that morning, a European explorer who had traveled across the vast oceans of the world believed victory would be easy. But he would soon face a warrior who refused to bow to foreign power. That warrior was Lapu-Lapu, and the explorer was Ferdinand Magellan. Their clash would become known as the Battle of Mactan, and it would change history forever. In the early 1500s, European nations were racing to discover new sea routes to Asia. Spices like cloves, cinnamon, and nutmeg were incredibly valuable, and whoever controlled the trade could become rich and powerful. Spain wanted its own path to these treasures. So in 1519, King Charles I of Spain approved an ambitious expedition led by the Portuguese navigator Ferdinand Magellan. Magellan commanded a fleet of 5 ships. Their mission was bold: sail west across the Atlantic Ocean, find a passage through the Americas, and reach the Spice Islands of Southeast Asia. It was a dangerous journey. Storms, starvation, mutiny, and disease threatened the crew. But after nearly 2 years at sea, Magellan's expedition finally reached the islands of the Philippines in 1521. For Magellan, this was not just exploration. It was also about power and religion. He wanted local rulers to recognize Spanish authority and convert to Christianity. When Magellan arrived in Cebu, he was welcomed by the local ruler, Raja Humabon. Humabon agreed to form an alliance with the Spanish. He even accepted baptism into the Christian faith. But not all leaders in the region were willing to submit. On the nearby island of Mactan, a powerful chief named Lapu-Lapu refused to recognize Spanish rule. He would not pay tribute, and he would not surrender his people's freedom. Magellan saw this as a challenge. Determined to demonstrate Spanish strength, he decided to attack. But Magellan made a critical mistake. He underestimated his opponent. Before dawn on April 27th, 1521, Magellan led about 60 armed soldiers toward the shores of Mactan. They carried swords, crossbows, muskets, and steel armor. Against them stood hundreds of warriors led by Lapu-Lapu. The island fighters had bamboo spears, shields, and blades. But they had something even more powerful. They knew their land, and they were fighting for their home. The shallow coral waters around the island prevented Magellan's ships from getting close to shore. This forced the Spanish soldiers to walk through the water for hundreds of meters before reaching land. Heavy armor slowed them down. Meanwhile, Lapu-Lapu's warriors waited. As the Spanish approached, the battle began. Arrows and spears flew through the air. Magellan ordered his men to fire their guns. But the distance was too far. Their shots were mostly ineffective. Soon the island warriors rushed forward. The fight became chaotic. Magellan's soldiers were surrounded. The warriors focused their attack on the armored leader. Magellan tried to defend himself, striking with his sword. But the numbers were overwhelming. Spears struck his legs. Then another hit his arm. One blow knocked his helmet away. And finally, multiple warriors attacked at once. Magellan fell to the ground. The great explorer who had crossed the world was defeated. Right there on the shores of Mactan. When Magellan died, the remaining Spanish soldiers retreated back to their boats. They were shocked. They had believed their weapons and armor would guarantee victory. But they had underestimated the courage and determination of the island warriors. Lapu-Lapu and his men had defended their land, and they had defeated one of the most famous explorers in history. Magellan's expedition would eventually continue its journey. One surviving ship, the Victoria, later completed the first circumnavigation of the Earth. But Magellan himself would never see the end of the voyage. Over time, the story of the Battle of Mactan became a symbol of resistance. In the Philippines, Lapu-Lapu is remembered as the first hero who stood against foreign colonization. Today, statues of Lapu-Lapu stand proudly in Mactan. Schools teach his story, and every year, Filipinos remember the moment when a local warrior defended his homeland against a powerful empire. It was not just a battle. It was a declaration of independence. A reminder that courage and unity can overcome even the strongest enemies. 500 years later, the waves still touch the shores of Mactan Island. Tourists walk along the beach where the battle once took place. But beneath the calm waters lies a powerful story. A story of bravery. A story of resistance. In the story of the day, Lapu-Lapu defeated Ferdinand Magellan. A moment when history changed forever.